The 25th Hour Radio Show.
I want to thank everyone for tuning in today to the 25th Hour Radio Show here on Monster Radio, AM 1150. I am your host, Rob Fairless, and on the phone with me today is International Federation of Bodybuilding and Fitness Hall of Fame member Rich Gaspari. Rich is also the owner of Gaspari Nutrition, which manufactures bodybuilding supplements, protein shakes, and protein powders to individuals around the world looking to make gains in their fitness levels. Rich, it's an honor and pleasure to have you on the show today, sir.
Great to be on the show.
Rich, let's start off by taking a quick trip back in time. In the very beginning, what initially inspired you to take up weight training in the first place?
Well, you hear the stories about, being a 90-pound weakling. I was one of those young kids that, was very skinny. I was, as a young kid, I was very sickly. I would always, get sick. At 6 years old, I caught double pneumonia. And then, for all the way up until I was, 9, 10, 11, 12, I was always, always sick all the time. At 13 years old, I contracted mononucleosis, which, normally it's something that just makes you tired and sick, but it got me into the hospital. I had it so bad. And, when I got out, I was 90 pounds at close to 14 years old. So my doctor, recommended, I get into a weight training program, to try to maybe gain some weight and, start eating. So I basically, from that point, said, man, I got to do something about myself. And, my friend, his dad collected a bunch of old Muscle Builder magazines, the old Joe Weider magazines. So I was in his basement one day and I'm looking at these magazines and I see pictures of Arnold Schwarzenegger and Lou Ferrigno and, Frank Zane and, all these Robbie Robinson, all these guys. And I said, man, these guys are like superheroes, So I looked at them and started reading these magazines and I said, man, I want to be a bodybuilder. From that point, looking at those magazines.
Now, were you hooked from the very beginning? And what I mean by that is, a lot of people start training, they quit. Maybe they start up again, maybe they don't. Were you one of the people who, once you started, you never stopped?
Once I started, I never stopped. After, I said I was sick, I started lifting weights, saw those magazines. I started doing all kinds of whatever I could. The internet didn't, exist. So, I couldn't go online and try to find information. So all the information I got was from these magazines. I got a couple books. One of the bodybuilders was named Bruce Randall. He was an old time Mr. Universe. He had this book out. So I ended up getting the book and there had a bunch of training routines. So I started following those routines like from 14, where I started in my parents' basement. From there, I used to sneak over to I lived in New Jersey and I lived near a college, Rutgers University. So they had a college there. So when I was like 14, 15, I used to sneak over to the college gym and used to train in that gym. Started buying a supplement, asking my mom, I want to buy, Weider's Mega Mass and, Weider's Anabolic Stack. And I would take all these supplements and my mom, ended up bringing them to the doctors and saying, hey, is this okay to take? And, at the time, she said, well, these are just vitamins and protein. So, yeah, I started training like from 13, went all the way into competing, at 15 years old in my first show, placing last, but then every year placing higher and higher until I was 18 years old, won my first teenage show, which then the heavyweight teenager that I went against, I was a light heavyweight. He ended up losing against me, but he went into the open and won that show. So I could have won the open as well. So, I excelled very quickly. By 19, I was already going into the nationals, coming in 5th place. By 20, I won the nationals and Mr. Universe, one of the youngest, besides, Arnold and Lou Ferrigno, to win those titles. So yeah, from the time I started, I've never stopped, even till up today.
Now, backing up just a little bit here, in the very beginning, did you start off working out in a gym or were you working out at home? I mean, in your opinion, do you think it's more beneficial for someone to join a gym rather than exercise at home? I mean, I know you do have more equipment at your disposal at a gym, but do you think a gym membership gives a person a mental edge?
Well, I do believe going to a gym. See, what happened with me is, I was going to that college gym. There was a hardcore gym that was in the area that I used to ride my bike to afterwards. And that's when I learned a lot of, you can learn a lot from magazines. You can learn stuff at home. But when you start seeing people in the gym training, it motivates you more. So I became more competitive because other people were in there training. So then I wanted to train and get bigger. So I do believe, gym is better to go to because then there's people there. You get knowledge from trainers and other people training in the gym. Plus, you get motivated because other people around you are training.
Now, you spoke about, starting competing. Was that something that you came up with, or did someone kind of nudge you towards that direction? I mean, did someone come up to you and say, hey, man, you need to maybe think about getting into competition?
Well, what happened was I ended up going to this gym. The name of the gym was Health and Strength. It was in Highland Park, New Jersey. It was the next town over. I'm from Edison, New Jersey, the place where they invented the light bulb. Mm-hmm. Anyways, I rode my bike to this gym. There was a guy that trained in there, another kid that was about a year older than me, that was into bodybuilding already. So I started training, and he kept making fun of me. Hey, you'll never be able to be as good as me. You'll never be able to beat me. So I started training, and in this gym, and I said, shoot, I want to go against this kid, one day and compete just to shut him up.
Yeah.
So there ended up being this local show that they ran for the gym itself. So I stayed all covered up and was like, training to go against this kid that, that was going to go into the show. So I became a surprise entry to go against him. And then I ended up beating him. The kid that was like a year older than me, I ended up beating him in this local show. And then went into, actually an NPC show, which then I told you I came in dead last, but not last because he was in the show. I ended up beating him. So I proved the point that I was better than him. But when I got into the competition, and this was only at the age of 15, I loved it. I said, you know what? I want to be a bodybuilder. I'm going to compete on stage.
Now, did you adjust to the competition side of bodybuilding pretty quickly? And what I mean by that is, there are other things involved besides physique, right? I mean, you have to have your posing game down. I mean, you can't get up in front of the judges and look like you're scared to death, right, from stage fright.
Yeah.
I mean, did it take a while to pull the whole package together to get to where you were a serious threat to everyone out there in the bodybuilding world?
Oh, definitely. Well, first off, the first show that I entered, I knew very little about dieting. I mean, I basically went on a totally no carb diet with just protein and water, to try to get ripped up. So, I lost body fat, but I lost, size as well that I gained. I had a very good metabolism. I found early on that I could eat, and I stayed generally, pretty ripped. So I was fortunate to have that type of diet. So little by little, I learned how to diet. When it came to the posing, when I did enter shows, when I entered this show, I ended up getting more, I wanted to know more. So what I would do is with friends, watch other shows and watch other bodybuilders pose. I would also look into magazines and look at poses that, the big guys were doing, like Arnold and Franco and Frank Zane. So I would take those poses and then mimic them in the mirror to, learn how to pose as well. And then watching these competitions, the local competitions, learned about how to, go into transition from one pose to the other. So a lot of it was just, I just wanted the knowledge, and I went out there and tried to find that knowledge, whether it was from magazines, whether it was seeing it on stage, whatever I had to do to improve upon it. And every show, I was very methodical. I kept notes of everything I did as a kid and on into my pro bodybuilding, writing everything down of what I needed to do to get better and better.
I can remember reading all the fitness magazines from back in your competition days. And it seemed like in whatever magazine I was reading, you were in it, somewhere, either on the cover or an article on the inside. You were, and you still are, a celebrity in bodybuilding. Did your life change in any way once you started getting famous? I mean, was it an easy adjustment for you to always being in the public eye?
Well, it was funny because, when I I moved to California when I was 20 years old. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to become a pro bodybuilder. I was going to, college at the time for 2 years. And I told my parents I was going to take a temporary leave of absence because I got offered a job as a manager in the Valley, San Fernando Valley in California. So I wanted to, pursue my dreams. I said, I'm going to do it in 1 year. I have a first generation Italian family that's, work ethic is very important. And, it was far from, I didn't want to let them down. Mm-hmm. So I said, let me do this and let me pursue my dreams. So I went to California, got to then, see all the pros that I read in the magazines, the Tom Platts, Frank Zane, Arnold Schwarzenegger. I've seen these guys where I've seen them in the gym, watching them train. And by then I was already a national competitor, winning the junior nationals. So I wanted to pursue winning the nationals. So going there, that was my greatest experience. And that definitely helped me then excel to become, a professional. But, your question is, was I used to it? Well, living in California, I was an unknown bodybuilder saying I was going to make it. Once I turned pro, it was funny. I moved back home to New Jersey from California. Now I made it. And, I started getting articles in the magazines. But it was funny. I got my first seminar and exhibition, and I got a request to go to Hawaii and also Tahiti. So on my way to Tahiti from Hawaii, we landed in New Zealand, and I was getting off the airport, and someone came up to me and said, "Oh my God, you're Rich Gaspari." I'm like, "I'm over here in New Zealand, and this guy knows who I am." So that's when it hit me and said, "Wow, I'm actually, I guess I'm somebody now." And, it was a great experience. And for me, I've always been humbled by, the fans and these people that, were motivated by what I did on stage and in the gym.
So you come out of the 80s and 90s as one of the top bodybuilders of that generation. And like everyone else in the world, at some point, there comes a time to retire. So you retired from the competing side of the sport of bodybuilding. But apparently your drive to compete wasn't completely gone, right? Because that's when you started your own business, Gaspari Nutrition. Yeah. And just like some of the most successful businesses in the world, you actually started yours out of your own garage. Man, I'm curious, how did that all play out from the moment you first got the idea up until Gaspari Nutrition becoming one of the leading and most trusted supplement lines in the world?
Well, as you said, you tried to transition from being that athlete to trying to, go back into the world of, either owning a business or working. So I had to figure out what to do. So, in bodybuilding, I started getting injuries, because I started very young, and unfortunately I had issues. Basically, it's a family trait, degenerative disc issue. So my disc started herniating. So I had problems with my lower back. I had problems with my neck. Getting ready for a show, I herniated the disc in my neck when I was getting ready for a competition. Totally, I couldn't compete anymore, and my career was done. During that transition where I was still competing, I bought a gym. I was going into, personal training and training these people, but I started also giving them supplements. So while I was in bed injured, I said, well, I'm not going to be able to use my body anymore, as a bodybuilder and make a career as a bodybuilder. So I got to do something else. And I just came up with the concept while I was in bed saying, I'm going to make my own brand. I'm going to start Gaspari Nutrition. And while I was in bed, I started investigating, manufacturers and where to make products and, what I was going to do to make this product, who I was going to call to buy the product. I started calling a bunch of the gyms that I trained in and saying, hey, I got a product line I'm coming up with, would you be interested in buying it? And right away, I just went into bodybuilding mode, into business mode, because I said, I got to do something besides doing this, this bodybuilding I can't do no more because I'm injured.
Now, in your opinion, what separates the Gaspari Nutrition line of supplements apart from, possibly other brands of supplements out there on the market?
Well, I mean, everyone always says, they make the best products, but, my passion was to make, the highest grade products available, products that worked. I was always confused with supplements, as an athlete and what's better and what's not. So, I wanted to make great products. I wanted to make products that were effective and products that worked. and products that I would use. So, I was out there, and I believe that if your passion, if you have a high passion for what you're doing, you're going to be successful. The money will come. And I didn't do this for the money. I came to make the best products, and that's what I did. I did a lot of stuff where other supplement companies didn't do. We did studies on our products to prove that they were effective. Whether they were my test boosters showing that they increased natural testosterone better than any product on the market. Products like Super Pump that came out that I wanted to show gave you the best, pump, or, in a month's time showed increases in lean muscle mass or increases in strength or rep to failure. So I, made these products, but then I proved them through studies to show that they worked.
Now, your products aren't just designed for competition bodybuilders, right? I mean, they pretty much fit the needs of almost anyone.
Oh, yeah. We have products. One of the products that I think is one of my best products is Glycofuse. Glycofuse is a carbohydrate that was designed by the Japanese. The carbohydrates are called cluster dextrins, and cluster dextrins have what's called a low osmolarity. So when you ingest them, they leave the stomach very quickly so that they go directly into the muscle for glycogen stores. And any athlete, whether they're a bodybuilder who wants bigger muscle or an endurance athlete that needs more endurance or more energy, they're going to need glycogen in the muscle. So yes, products like Glycofuse is a great product for any type of athlete. Our pre-workouts can be used by any type of athlete. I have a great vitamin called Antivite, which is basically a great high, bioavailable vitamin and mineral formula, as well as having Carnipure or carnitine tartrate, which helps as well for burning fat, increasing, muscle by, preventing muscle breakdown, beta-alanine, which lowers, lactic acid. So a lot of these supplements are not just for bodybuilders, but any type of athlete.
I can imagine this type of business to be constantly evolving with continual research being applied daily. And I'm sure you have your own R&D team that makes sure if someone buys a Gaspari Nutrition supplement, they're getting the best quality product that's available at any given time, right?
Exactly. I partnered up with a manufacturer, and because of that, I'm able to come up with, who goes and gets, ingredients from, China and even in the U.S. with products, ingredients that no one else has. I mean, it's very hard with today's, FDA. You have to come up with products that are effective, but also products that are natural or naturally occurring. So, so you want to come up with products that are in the food chain, but also are effective in causing results. So you have to do this research in finding these type of ingredients, whether it's to gain lean muscle mass, whether it's to lose body fat, whether it's to increase, testosterone, all these different effects that you want. You have to go into, researching them and then making sure then also that they're, totally compliant, totally safe. So this is, never ending in us doing our research to come up with great products. And that's the fun that I have when coming up with new products that we design.
I'm sure being in this type of business, it involves a lot of travel, meeting new faces, perhaps a little whining and dining, right? I guess to be so successful in what you're doing, this type of thing has to really fit your personality. And you kind of answered that a few minutes ago. Am I right on that? I mean, do you enjoy the travel, meeting new people? I mean, everything that involves being a CEO of a company?
I'm on the road probably, 6 months or 7 months out of the year. I just came back yesterday from Los Angeles and San Diego. We're at the LA Fit Expo. This weekend I'll be in Manhattan going to a local, one of the local stores that are buying Gaspari product. Next week I go to Germany, where we will have a booth there to display our products to sell to the German market. So yes, I do a lot of traveling. I enjoy seeing, people and dealing with people. And, a lot of my success is, relationship driven, by having relationships with a lot of my customers, that believe in me, will believe in my products. So that's what I do. It's just, this year I have to go 2017. I'll be in China, to a new emerging market with my products, Australia, New Zealand, Malaysia, Canada, Brazil. So we do a lot of traveling with the brand. The brand is a global brand besides, constantly, growing in the United States.
Now, as far as website, where can people go to get all the info they need on your products as far as type and how to purchase these products?
you could go to GaspariNutrition.com. You can buy our products on different websites like Amazon, A1. There's a lot of websites to get it, but if you want information, you can go right to the source and go to our website to learn about any of the products that we design.
Now, are you a social media fan? Are you constantly connecting with fans and patrons of your products in that way?
We try to grow social media. I am a little old school, and being that I'm in my 50s, it's a more of a younger generation thing. But yeah, I mean, I am on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter. We're constantly using social media to convey our message on our products, on my lifestyle. I mean, I still train 5 days a week. Still walk the walk, where I still watch my diet, eating 6 meals a day. Even though I'm past competing, I still live a lifestyle that will continue on. And this is what I want to show people, that it's never a time where you just stop training and get yourself all out of shape. You can stay in shape till you die. It's just like Jack LaLanne did it till he was 96.
So before we wrap this up, man, is there anything you might want to add that I might have left out? Possibly any words of encouragement for all the people out there with those New Year's resolutions of getting back in shape?
Well, I'm a firm believer in positive energy and positive thinking. Believe in what you want to do, and you will achieve it. I constantly, say, if you're going to go for a goal, it's not only believing in the goal, make the efforts in what you're going to do to work to get to that goal. I built a company that was from just an idea and turned it into a multi-million-dollar, global company. I had an idea that one day I wanted to become, a pro bodybuilder, and end up becoming, a bodybuilder that, not only becoming a pro bodybuilder, but becoming one of the icons in the sport, that, will always be remembered, for changing the sport, being the most ripped bodybuilder. And these are all things that, if you really truly believe in what you're doing, and you take the work to make it happen, you will change and make things happen in your life.
Now, hey, man, I almost forgot. You also have a book you released a couple of years ago, right?
You can get my book on Amazon. It's 51 Days, No Excuses. And basically what the book is about was, I got myself in shape a couple of years back to get back on the cover of Iron Man magazine. So, I'm always in shape, but I wanted to get into competition shape, for this magazine. So I got myself back in shape in 51 days. And the book basically talks about my journey to get in shape, the 51 days it took to get in shape with my training routine and my diet. But it also talks about what I did and, what happened in my life, the setbacks I had, and how I was able to overcome those setbacks. That I want to tell people, it's not just all uphill. There's going uphill and going down and then trying to come back up. And I had a lot of stories in the book that you can read and, get inspired by.
Well, Rich, thanks again for taking a few minutes out of your day to join me on the show. It's been my pleasure, sir.
It's been a pleasure speaking to you, and, happy to do it.
The 25th Hour Radio Show.